there's a bigger issue here. Just because a group of people belong to the Federation, it does not mean that they are saints. The trouble is Earth. On Earth, there is no poverty, no crime, no war. You look out the window of Starfleet headquarters and you see paradise. Well, it's easy to be a saint in paradise. Out there, all the problems haven't been solved yet. Out there are no saints, just people. Angry, scared, determined people who are going to do whatever it takes to survive.
What I want to know is, out of all the stories you told me, which ones were true and which ones weren't?
My dear doctor, they're all true.
Even the lies.
Especially the lies.
On behalf of the Bajoran government
And the Promenade Merchants Association,
I officially welcome you to Deep Space Nine.
Welcome back to Especially the Lies, a Deep Space Nine podcast. We are a group of longtime Star Trek fans who have convinced some of our friends who have never actually seen this show to join us and talk about Star Trek Deep Space Nine week to week. We aren't letting them binge watch it. We aren't letting them go just wild and go through the entire season. We are watching this the same way it came out, with episodes released each week. For those familiar with us, we did this with Babylon 5, and we've got some of the same people back here, so clearly they didn't kill us or hate us enough after that show, so we're going to try it again and see what happens by the end of Season 7. I am Blake, and with me is...
Chris.
Mike.
Christopher.
Jessi.
Prentice.
And Emily.
Well, that order went the way I had it in the chat. Cool. So usually we start these off with a synopsis, and I know we have some thoughts and feels on this one. So I'm going to let our two usual synopsis suspects sit there and marinate for a minute and think about what they want to say. And while they do that, I'm going to read one of our reviews from Canada. Last week, we started off with a review from the UK, and then Jessi talked about the IRA, and I'm pretty sure our ratings there are going to go to shit. So let's stick with Canada for this one.
Fuck Canada. Sorry.
Well, guess we're going to go to Australia.
Canada.
A good excuse to do a rewatch from Citizen Jakar. I've been listening to this crew since the Grey 17 podcast, which is also an amazing listen. Yes, it is, if we do say so ourselves. I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not generally a fan of conversation podcasts, but have been hooked on this crew from early Grey 17. Discussions are thoughtful, but can also be completely in the weeds. I think that's a polite way of saying we can fucking go off the rails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And still be entertaining. I love the insights that each member brings. Scott does a great job of directing the conversation, yeah, he did all right, and letting it go where it needs to go. I look forward to the rest of the journey. That came from Citizen Jakar in May of 2025, now that we know how to find these. All right, Christopher and Jessi, you two are usually the ones that have our synopsises. Which one of you wants to do this?
Go ahead, Chris, you go first, and then I'll just read mine.
Okay. Quark, accidentally, this time, is involved in humanoid trafficking. Odo finds a kindred spirit, and Sisko invites someone to dinner.
That's a nice
I told you it wasn't good.
No, it was good. It was like encompassing of the whole thing. Mine says absolutely.
No, but it wasn't like the normal, like, witty.
Spicy.
Mine's super witty. Ready? Absolutely the fuck not. 20 is too fucking old for a 16-year-old. The end.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how we typically do this is after we get a synopsis, we start off with getting our first impressions from our new viewers of Deep Space Nine. And I think after that, let's go ahead and kick this off with Jessi. Buckle up and get ready for this one.
This fucking episode pissed me the fuck off because you know what? A child is still a fucking child no matter how quote unquote mature they are. It just fucking pissed. Like I hoped that Sisko made the right decision. But Sisko fucking did what every other fucking weird-ass fucking parent does when they let somebody groom and molest their children. And just let her continue because I guess Jake's fucking mature enough. Think about this episode if Jake was a girl. If Jake was Jill, we'd all be on fucking like bullshit, right? And it's just, it's obnoxious. I hated it. It was a good episode, but I hated the fucking, I hated that part. Now the other part was interesting. It was interesting to see the baby go from a very light-skinned mixed baby to a very dark-skinned not mixed baby to a gray person. So it was fun to see how Jemadars are... Dude, if I could have fucking kids like that, I would have had one. Like if I could have a kid and it was 2 weeks old and all of a sudden it was 8, and then like I don't know what the 8 to fucking, but clearly he became a teenager when he like ran through and got gooed by Odo. So
I will say, Jessi did comment in our host chat that said Scott is lucky he's not around because after watching this episode, it makes me want to punch him in the face.
I know he was waiting for this fucking episode, and we talked about it before we got on here. He was probably sitting next to me, fucking watching it as I was pissed off, like laughing because that's what Scott did when he saw me get upset. He fucking thought it was funny.
As
Fucking
do most
guy.
of us when we're a safe distance away.
Well, Scott's, like Odo, he's see-through, so I couldn't punch him. So, good God, it got worse. See, that's why I stopped fucking talking.
So I don't know how you're going to do it, but Chris, let's see if you can follow that up with your first impressions.
Get it, Chris. I know you can do this. I've got faith in you.
Oh, the pressure, the pressure. So this was wild. I mean, because Mama was serving up the breast meat at the dabo table, like, and then she goes straight to a 16-year-old in like a bar slash club. It gave me the creep vibes from the beginning. But at the same time, I'm also like, yo, Jake is pimping, right? I mean, come on, you got himself a older lady. She's some fine shit. She's wearing that thing. She's serving him up. But then on the flip side again, I'm like, yeah, but he's only 16. Like, what are we? And he's not like, okay, because all right, so when I was in high school, I was 6'4", 215, right? 16, 17 years old. Yes, I'm underage, but I still had some late 20s, mid 20s things that I was talking to and stuff like that. But most men in the world aren't 6'4", 215. Jake is what, like 105 pounds soaking wet, thin as a rail. Like there's nothing about him that says, oh, he could be mature, like Jessi said, or he could be mistaken for a man of age. He looks and acts like a 16-year-old. And so I don't know. That's what creeped me out about it. The episode overall, I thought it was good to see that they kind of went back to having some concurrent storylines going, even though the storyline with Jake and the Dabo girl and Sisko, it was paper thin. The whole storyline with Odo and the Jem'Hadar clone slash engineered child thing. There was a couple of things when I'm watching it, I'm like, they need to explain this because there's a lot of holes in it and it doesn't make sense. And it did explain it, like the enzyme thing. He needed the enzyme stuff in the stasis chamber because I'm like, if his metabolism is that fast and he's growing at that rate, but he's 2 weeks old, fresh out the chamber, like it doesn't. But they explained that, so I kind of felt they did a good job, at least of laying a believable foundation behind the science of it. Even though, again, this is Star Trek, it's all make believe for the most part, so it's like they can fucking do whatever they want in terms of their rules and the lore or whatever. But overall, I thought it was okay. I think the message at the end of it was polarizing, kind of. I don't want to say polarizing. I mean, that's not the right word. It came off two different ways to me. One way was your nature is going to be your nature, regardless of whatever nurture you receive. The other one, on the flip side of that coin, was it doesn't matter who you are or what you do or who you come into contact with. You're always going to be who you're going to be, and you can't change that, which I don't agree with. So I was kind of torn in the message that I received from the episode, but overall, I thought it was all right.
And Christopher.
I thought the episode was well written and well acted. I liked how they brought back a few of the storylines, as Chris mentioned, and they made you think about moral dilemmas here and whether or not we agree with how they resolved them. They were thought-provoking. And so I thought it was a good episode, and I thought that we are probably going to have a really spirited discussion here. But overall, I enjoyed it.
All right, and let's switch over to our longtime fans. Start with Mike.
This wasn't my favorite episode. Kind of on the counterpoint, like I just tend to not really appreciate the whole AB plot thing, especially when one of the plots doesn't do anything to move the overall narrative forward. It's just like a weird side quest, and this one was, I'll admit, at the time when I watched it, like the age gap didn't click until like I got in here and just started talking about how much it bothered her, and I'm like, all right, yeah, no, that was kind of icky. I get it, but again, it was just kind of like an amusing side quest, but it didn't really do a whole lot to like move the narrative or like build characters or anything necessarily, besides maybe some awkward stuff about Jake. And as far as the A plot goes, I don't know. It was trying to make a point, and I can definitely see where they were trying to get at some more like thought-provoking stuff that Trek likes to do, which I'm usually in favor of, but I just feel like this one just didn't stick for some reason. It just didn't have the impact that other episodes have for me at least. And I was like really kind of unhappy with the conclusion of it because I felt like it was no conclusion really. So yeah, just kind of meh.
Emily.
I do like this episode. They've essentially ignored the Dominion for a while and they kind of brought it back, which is appreciated since it felt like it dropped off. The Jake and Marta storyline is ew. And I actually had to look it up because I was looking at her. I'm like, is this girl like, how old is she actually? 18. She was 18.
What?
I looked it up. That was filmed in October of 94. She was born in 76.
I wonder if it's because he looks so young.
And I think that's part of it. And also the makeup and the outfit and everything to enhance her natural beauty, shall we say.
I'm not saying she looked old, but she looks
Right.
a lot older than him.
She could pass for beyond 18.
Yes. Like I would have said probably 22 or 23 if I had to guess like what age she was supposed to be on this show. You know what I mean? Like, because I was waiting because I was like, I need to see how old this bitch actually is. And then they said it, but that's crazy that she was only 18.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, okay, that's just wild. But yeah, watching it now, because I didn't pay that much attention. I remember watching it the first time. I'm like, ooh, that's weird. Like, eh. And now I'm just like, ooh, that like he's still a kid. I know they're 16 and they're maturing, but not that much. Not that much. It's still weird. It's still weird. And I thought it was actually funny that her coming to dinner really made Sisko realize that he is not like a little kid anymore. He is growing up, he's maturing, and there are things about his life that he apparently doesn't know anything about. It was kind of a wake-up call, like, oh shit, I got a teenager trying to date some dabo girl. Maybe I need to shift focus a little bit. I've been a little distracted by the job. Maybe want to check in a little more often. Like, I know they have a solid relationship and everything, but things have been happening on the station and teenagers have their own lives and all that. So, I mean, it's not one of the better episodes, but I don't dislike it aside from the obvious ick factor.
Prentice.
So I thought it was a good episode, and my perspective on this episode has changed because I did the background to understand what was happening with this episode. First of all, it was directed by Avery Brooks, so that was amazing to know. But then the perspective that Avery Brooks said, he thought it was a metaphor about how society looks at Black and brown young men. The fear, the anxiety, especially as the Jim Adar came of age. I never really thought about that, so it was really interesting to see that. Jim Hadar was played by Bumper Johnson. Now, Bumper was in a whole bunch of TV shows in the 90s and so on. He does voice acting. He was in Different Worlds, Sister Sister, Blackish, and the classic sci-fi movie Enemy Mine. So I'm familiar with him, but I didn't see him under the makeup previously, so it was really good to catch that. And I want to say this about Odo in the episode, which was really interesting. He was trying to put himself in a mentoring capacity. And what I said was that in my notes, sometimes despite what we see in front of us, we ignore the true nature of the person because we hope for the best. In this moment with the Jim Hadar, Odo learns the hard way, that sometimes our best efforts, people are going to be who they are. And sometimes you have to accept that. I have been in mentoring capacity. I understand what Odo was trying to do. Sometimes those who we mentor have the desire, or sometimes those who mentor have the desire to mentor because of their own experiences, and in many ways, the desire to protect others from harm, or the same experiences that drive people to be a mentor themselves. It was clear that Odo struggled with being an outsider himself, and he was very much triggered by the prospect of this young man being an experiment. So all in all, when I looked at this episode from this perspective, it kind of changed my interpretation of the episode completely after reading the background notes on this episode.
So I agree. This episode's not necessarily one of my favorite episodes of season three. I think it's a decent enough episode. I do like that they bring the Jim Hadar back in and we get to see a little bit of the evolution of Odo after he's encountered his people, after he has learned more about his people, learned more about himself through that process. And we see that because he was in the garden, right, when they were on the Founder's Planet and they had that garden and the different things he could do to shapeshift. And now he's got his own quarters. He's not just in a bucket in the corner of the security office. So he's got his own quarters now and he's got it set up where he can practice shapeshifting and doing different things. And even mentions he doesn't sleep in the bucket anymore, doesn't revert in the bucket. And when Kira brought him the plant, that's what he put in the bucket, which to me kind of showed how much she means to him because he put her gift in something that sentimental and that. So I kind of saw that piece where that was a bit of a nod to the relationship between the two of them when he chose to use his bucket for the plant that he was going to have from Kira. I do also think the bit with Jake, I've seen arguments on this. I have actually watched a few other shows that delve into this, and some point out that under certain laws in certain states, there'd be absolutely nothing wrong with the relationship. There's moral questions of it, there's legal questions, and definitely within the current context and how much attention, keeping in mind when this show came out, and how much society and context has changed through, for lack of a better way of putting it, society getting educated about what predator behavior is. That has always been there, but has been a lot more front and center in media, in other aspects, so that people can see that now. And that's one of the challenges, I think, of watching these shows that are 30 plus years old and seeing them now and then raising these questions as we go through. And I mean, as much of a West Wing fan as I am, I watch episodes of The West Wing, and that at the time was one of the most like liberal out there shows. There's some episodes of that, and there's some conduct in that that's pretty problematic throughout. I still like the show. I still go watch it. We've got Kevin, who's on our show for watching Starfleet Academy, and him and I argue all the time. He loves Friends. I think Friends is problematic as all hell. It was then. It still is now. But so I think that's definitely part of it, is not to say that it was acceptable, that it was right then, but society has also had a seismic shift when it comes to their views on these issues, the perceptions, and even, Jessi, you kind of got hinting at it, is like I remember some of the big stories back when I was in school was around what was the teacher? Mary Kay Letourneau, was that the one that slept with the student? And you hear these students of female teachers sleeping with male students getting punished, but the male students basically are treated like heroes. They're never considered victims for it. And a large portion of society goes, well, what was the problem? He was the man. He did this. They'd never look at the wrong aspect. And I think that really plays into, again, that societal change that's happened over the decades since this came out. Christopher.
So I want to touch upon what Prentice just said about Avery Brooks directing the episode. I think with what you just said, Prentice, I think it makes that ending scene all kind of the more poignant, where Sisko looks at him and says, I would had to kill the boy to keep him here. And that's what he's going to tell the Admiral. And I looked at it. I had been watching the episode as this is a genetically altered individual, and that it was seeing it as the Jim Hadar and the enemy that I expect to be coming in the upcoming war, that I still expect to happen. I didn't see it as an allegory for being a young black man. And I mean, there's a lot of times that because I'm not, I probably missed that.
What?
And so I know, shocking.
It is. I learned something new today.
So I think that does give it a lot more depth, and I might have to actually go back and rewatch it now through a new lens, because all I saw it was the lens of a very literal story that they were telling.
Chris.
So thinking about what Prentice said and how it was supposed to be a metaphor for young black and brown teenage boys growing up into becoming men and how they're viewed by society. And I don't know, Prentice, maybe you can clarify it more for me. So
Yeah.
Was he trying to show the experience of the young black and brown man through the lens of the biologically engineered Jem'Hadar and how the people on the space station were reacting to him?
That is exactly it. So the reactions, the fear, and Odo was trying to protect the boy to say, well, you don't understand him. He can change, things of that nature. And people saying, no, we know them to be violent. We know them to be destructive. And this is all they're ever going to be. So it was a heartbreaking thing for Odo at the end to realize that he could not change the young man's disposition because of his genetics, right? But that scene where you saw him walking on the promenade and people were casting that questioning gaze upon the Jem'Hadar, the fear, that part in particular was the metaphor. It may not have been the entire episode, but he was trying to show that kind of allegory in the similarities, how young black men, young brown men walk down the street and people, they assume the worst sometimes, right? Now, when the kids are babies, people, oh, look at them, all innocent, colored. But when they become men, their voice gets deeper. They have facial hair. It turns into a threat, right? So in that moment, when he showed that scene on the promenade, he was trying to replicate that sense of fear and how it connected to the experiences of young black or brown people as they emerge into adulthood or their teenage years, when they become not just a baby anymore, but a threat.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for that. Because now that I didn't know that background with what he was trying to go for in the episode, and so now I dislike this episode even more. And here's why. Reason being is because, Prentice, you've experienced it, I've experienced it in my life.
Yeah.
That exact same thing, right? That's real life for us. The
Yeah.
promenade scene for the Jem'Hadar guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not dark skinned, but being my size, my stature, I guess having my energy, it tends to intimidate people immediately. And then I'm ambiguously brown, and then I have a strong personality. I have the deep voice, a commanding presence, if I say so myself. But that does put people off very easily and put them on the defensive, or they get intimidated, or whatever the case is. And so I get that. Like, I get that. But the one thing, knowing what Avery Brooks was going for now, that I wish he would have done is if he would have changed how it ended. Because you and I, Prentice, both know that we are the exact opposite of how we are perceived in those situations. And unless you get to know us, right, spend some time with us, you won't know that. You're going to go off your stereotypes. You're going to go off of there's a young, or just maybe not even young, but there's a black person. They are a strong male, and I don't feel safe. I have my own particular stereotypes. I'm going to apply that to this person, and I'm going to treat them that way. And what the episode did was essentially reinforce that in a way, is by saying all those people on the promenade, their stereotype, their fear was validated by not allowing the Jem'Hadar character to have an arc and to show that exposure can change an individual, even if they are on that trajectory, right? And I think it was there in the episode when Odo exposed him to the holosuite or the training program. So this is your outlet. This is where you can get all of that rage, all of that instinct, all of that programming out of you. You can do that here safely. And then you can learn how to, out on the promenade, out on the station, you can learn how to interact with people, get to know people, let them get to know you, right? In the whole episode, Odo kept saying, what is it you want? What is it that you're thinking? Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Like, tell me what you actually feel, right? And then, the whole thing of him always wanting to fight, always wanting to kill, it's like, that is a very direct metaphor for how a lot of people in the world view young and just older Black American males. Violence, ignorance, prone to outbursts, things of that sort. And so for him to have the Jem'Hadar character kind of fulfill that stereotype, and despite Odo's efforts to get him to change, right? They figured out the enzyme thing. They gave him the enzyme that he needed to help biologically level him out. And they kind of just completely overlooked that by saying, for one scene, oh yeah, look, everything looks to be leveling up, everything looks to be good, and then he just continues to progress to become this raging Jem'Hadar warrior anyway. That's why hearing that explanation, it just makes the episode even worse for me because I'm like, there was an opportunity here for you to use this episode for that metaphor that you said you were going for. And so the only thing I can think of the reason why he ended that was maybe because he was going for the angle of he's tried to mentor young black men before, and despite his efforts, he could not get them to change. And so if that's the case, like, is that a direct kind of commentary and message to the black community through this episode? Because if that's the case, then that's different.
Let me give you the full context of what he said. In this quote, it basically goes on to say, Director A.V. Brooks saw this episode as something as a metaphorical study of racial tension and gang culture. According to Brooks, for me, it was very much a story about young brown men, and to some extent, a story about society that is responsible for the creation of a generation of young men who are feared, who are addicted, who are potential killers. End quote. That was the reference I was making earlier. It doesn't really change it. You're absolutely right, because I would have ended a little bit differently if I'm trying to convey a different message. But I want to make sure as you're talking, you have the full context of the quote I was referring to.
No, yeah, thank you. And I mean, so yeah, that makes it a little bit clearer. But to like you just said, I wish he still would have ended it different, because again, and this is a whole separate conversation, so I won't get into it too much. But throughout my life, some of my good friends, a ton of teammates coming up, we're all gang members. And so I guess maybe I have a different perspective in that. It's like everybody that's in a gang isn't that stereotypical, I'm gonna kill you if you look at me the wrong way. I'm toting the gun, I'll shoot anybody, anytime, anywhere. I'm ultra violent. Like a lot of people in gangs are just regular kids or just regular people who they're living their life the best way that they see fit, or they feel most comfortable in the environment and the circumstance that they're in, right? Some people, it's all they know. Some people, they choose it. But at the end of the day, those ultra violent killers are the majority within a gang as a total picture. Now, are they there? Yes. Right? Are there more than a few? Yes. But what I'm saying is, growing up, if every single gang person was like that, so many of them wouldn't have been my teammates. So many of them wouldn't have been my guys growing up. Like there were gang members, lifelong gang members, who told other gang members, leave Chris alone. He's a hooper. He gets good grades. He's cool, but he's not about this life. Don't take that shit around him. We don't want him involved in this, caught up in our stuff. So if they were all that stereotype, I wouldn't have had OGs looking out for me like that when I was coming up. Even when I was dumb and hard-headed and I was trying to run the streets. Chris, get your ass out of here. What are you doing here? Like I had OGs telling me that, like, nah, you don't, this ain't for you. So that it provides more insight and perspective, but I still wish he would have ended it differently, because even from that aspect, like every gang member, every person who is gang affiliated, whatever, isn't like that. And so I just wish they would have, if that was the case, I wish he would have had the redemption at the end, because I feel like that would have sent a stronger message. Like these kids, these teenagers, or these young men who are coming up in this lifestyle, or who have been exposed to this, or who have been dragged into this, whatever it is, there is redemption for them. And you shouldn't, if you're just a civilian, or if you're another person looking at them, you shouldn't stereotype them. You shouldn't treat them this way. Or you should, at least if they are living that life, you should give them some grace, because there is hope that they can change, and show them that change is possible, even in a biologically engineered war machine like the Jem'Hadar character. That Odo could have got through to him. I just felt like that would have been a more powerful message.
Well, and I will say, Chris, you mentioning that, some of the producers did comment afterwards that they felt the ending didn't land.
Right.
So I think you're spot on there, because the producers even commented in retrospect in some of their comments later that they did not feel that it landed the way it could have.
Well, and if I can jump in and ask this question, and because at this point, like, Chris, I think you basically summed up all of my feelings about it already, so I'll double down on it with you. But I have a question, and I think maybe, Chris, you're the guy that might be able to shed some actual insight into this. So what we're hearing from Prentice's note, which was interesting because I had not heard this, and I appreciate that at least one of us decided to actually do homework. But like, So if Avery Brooks directed the episode, that's all well and good. No disrespect to him. The episode was directed very well. What I oftentimes wonder in Hollywood productions is where the director begins and ends and where the writing begins and ends. Because what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing an episode that was written about something completely different. It was written about showing the audience, here are the Jem'Hadar, the very possibly future enemy of the series. And we're going to portray them as absolutely terrifyingly, unremorsely just killing machines that you cannot reason. That is the message that the viewer should take away at the end of this episode. That despite how hard Odo and the others try to sympathize and make a better life for this kid, he has no choice. He's going to be what he's going to be, and the Federation's going to have to. On the other side of that, we got Prentice's note about Avery Brooks and his interpretation of the episode, which to me doesn't fit the writing at all. And that's why the whole thing doesn't feel like it lands on either of those two perspectives. It's caught somewhere in the middle and never really satisfactorily resolves. So do you have any experience, or can you speak at all to where the writers end and the directors begin, and who ultimately kind of gets the final say on some of that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So it's different in film than it is in television. Excuse me. So in film, the writer is essentially just a person, even if it's a phenomenal screenplay, at the end of the day, it's the outline. And the director takes that and then does what they want with it and makes it into the movie that they want to make. The actors also in film have a lot more, I think, freedom when it comes to interpretation of the character, of the script. And oftentimes that script is changed 2, 3, 4, 5 times from the point where the person writes it to what's actually filmed and all that. In TV or in streaming nowadays, the writer of an episode has more power over what is actually filmed and how the teleplay is actually translated into what you see on the screen. The showrunner, who person over the entire show, is often a head writer or a writer as well. So when it comes to directing an episode, directors on TV shows or streaming series don't have as much power and control, or don't have as much leeway to change things, because there's multiple episodes, right? And each episode often will have a different director. So you can't have one director coming in and just completely changing everything, because the writing team is putting together every episode as a complete story. So the director kind of has to stick to what's on the paper, right?
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So for this, and again, like I said, with this episode, before I knew what Prentice had shared with us, the research with Avery Brooks and what he was trying to do with it, what I got from the show, again, I was torn, because I took it as a metaphor for, can people change, or are they going to be whoever it is that they are, right? Like, if they have a mentor, if they're exposed to certain things, or if they're kind of coached along the way, and nurtured, can they become different than whoever it is that they were born as and grow up and just naturally tend to be? So I think this is a situation where you have that, and it's in conflict with what the director wanted to do, with what Avery Brooks wanted to do.
Yep, and
I think that showed.
That's where I'm landed too. Is the director and the writer were not on the same page about what they were trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would agree with that, because what you said, Mike, makes sense. If this is an episode that they are going to use to set up the nature of the Jem'Hadar and to show that they're an uncompromising, threat to Starfleet and to, Deep Space Nine, then yes, okay, what happened? Yeah, we get that now, right? Because no matter what happened, they couldn't change it. And even if that's the angle, Mike, I think you would agree with me. I think they could have played it up even more,
Totally, yeah.
With how they play things out,
and more emotional punch with the fact of the journey that our hero characters go through, trying to put their best foot forward to fix the situation, but ultimately failing.
Yeah. It's like the scene from Revenge of the Sith where Padme's crying, "Annie, you're breaking my heart." Like, they could have had that kind of moment in here, where Odo could have been like, with the Jem'Hadar character, be like, "You're killing me, man. Like, I'm doing everything. I'm bending over backwards trying to get these people to accept you, and so they know that you're not this killing machine that they fear you are. And, I feel like they could have done it differently if that was the direction they were going. But then you have Avery Brooks's his mission with this episode and what he wanted, the story he wanted to tell. And I just don't think, to your point, it landed as it should because of that.
Jessi.
I'm having a moment because now I hate this episode also. Somebody else said it, but now I hate it even more. The only part of it that I didn't hate was that part. Now I was so busy focusing on the fucking groomer that I couldn't fucking see past my own nose. So as like Christopher, I'm also not a person of color. Surprise, surprise. And as a white person in America, I don't see racism aimed at me ever. Like, I'm a woman, that's a different kind of discrimination. That's not even remotely the same thing. But and I'm only going to speak for myself, but you always hear about racism and you hear that it's still a thing. And when I got into my sociology class, I know I've said this before on shows, so if anybody's listened to us or me say this before, I'm sorry, but like, I didn't know what I didn't know. So, but what makes me sad is, like, we talked about it on our last episode about get to know somebody, sit down with somebody. If you spent 5 seconds talking to somebody that you're so busy fucking discriminating against, you would learn that they're just a human, just like you. What makes me sad is because I don't experience it on a daily basis. You always hear about racism, but you don't, like, I don't see it. And what really makes me sad is hearing Chris say, so here's the thing, looking at Chris and Prentice, I can automatically assume that you guys have experienced racism before. That's probably just if not every other day thing, right? So, but like, what makes me sad is after 3 fucking seasons with you guys, not only does it make me sad, but it pisses me off a little bit that somebody would just look at you and not get to know you, and like that, just like, and I know that that's a thing. I've always like, and I guess that's the point, is I know it's a thing. But, and it's not just a thing, it's a whole fucking problem, but I don't see it. So hearing you, Chris and Prentice, say, yeah, we've experienced that, this, I'm tall and this and that, and it kind of fucking pisses me off, because not that I like you guys that much, but it kind of really pisses me off that somebody would like treat you shitty like that, right? And so I'm like furiously writing fucking notes as you guys were talking. You guys have said a lot in the last couple minutes. The whole, like, why try, right? There is a whole fucking, like, there's so many different sectors of the American employment, like, sector, that there's so many different types of people that do that same job, where they work with people knowing that they've probably been nurtured or lack of nurtured for so long that there's a chance that they're not going to actually make the change that you want to see for them, but they still do it. Teachers, police officers, corrections officers, probation officers, like guys that mentor like big brothers and big sisters, stuff like that. Like, I think everybody that does that job has asked themselves at one point or another, why do I continue to do this job? Because it is hard to watch people who have been unnurtured their entire lives to act a certain way and then expect them to act as if they were nurtured. Because, like, here's my thing, not many people are predispositioned to be a bad person. Like, only like 1 to 5% of the population has anti-personality disorder, or like what people will call a sociopath or a psychopath. So with most circumstances, if the child is nurtured properly, they become a productive citizen, right? And so that leads into the gang conversation. And I'm welcome to my fucking tit talk. Most gang members, and it depends on what study you look at, 50 to 90% of kids that go into gangs don't have fathers in the homes or come from a single parent home. And so the problem with their dads not being home is, where they're going to go look at it. They're going to go look at the guys outside that seem to be the most masculine and can do the things that they want their own dad to do, or a single dad home where the dad's the only one and can't give them like as much time or like effort as a 2-parent home. And I'm not saying you have to be from a 2-parent home to be successful, but like that's what leads to kids, like kids being in gangs. 70 some percent, I can't remember my numbers exactly, 70 some percent of gang members have seen family violence in their own past. So it's like, but it brings me back to nurture, 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 nurture. And I guess like it's a really lot of words. It's a lot of words to say like, I fucking hate this episode and I don't want to ever watch it again. So
Never again.
fucking stupid. Like if you nurtured your fucking kids well enough, they wouldn't be fucking menaces to society. And then there's a whole group of other people that try to like mitigate it and then get blamed for fucking not doing enough. It's just it's crap. Teachers deserve more money. That's all I'm saying.
I think with that part, you're right. You're right. I think having a stable, strong home life definitely helps prevent
Can help.
children going wayward.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of situations and whatever is the reason why there's a lot of single parent households out there, or broken households out there. Again, a whole other conversation. I do believe that there are a lot of single parents who are doing everything they can to try to give their kids the best life possible.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that was
But
the second part.
they're
That was
they're
the,
working,
the
right?
single parent home where they do want to do the best that they can for their kids. So they do pick up a second or a third or a fourth job. So that's absolutely like,
Yeah.
they're trying. It's just but what happens when you have three jobs? You're rarely home.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even I mean, because sometimes it's just the allure, right? The pop culture and society tends to glorify these things. And it's not just within Black and brown communities. It's in, you look at Scarface, you look at The Godfather, Goodfellas, you look at all of these films, which are essentially glorifying the same thing, just through a different lens, right? That criminal lifestyle, fast money, you get women, you get clothes, you get the high life and all of that. But then it also portrays the downside to that. But even with the portrayal of the downside, it's the allure of the money, the fast life, the women, the cars, the clothes, or the men, cars, clothes, whatever, right? So sometimes that pull is just too strong. I can't remember who said it, but it was like, parents aren't raising their kids anymore. MTV's fucking raising these kids these days. This is old quote. Old
Now
quote. I just dated
MTV's not
myself.
even raising the kids.
Yeah, it's not MTV anymore. But you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like the people don't look to their teachers or don't look to their coaches to be mentors. It's fucking Madonna. It's these pop icons who they look to, who they try to emulate or want to be like nowadays. And it's changed now, obviously today. The characters or the celebrities are different, but that's who a lot of these kids are looking to emulate. Which, to bring it full circle back to the episode, that's even more reason why I wish they would have given it a different ending, because Odo was that figure. And I think if they would have had Odo be able to have some kind of effect on the Jem'Hadar character, it not only would have spoken to, I think, the overall message better, but from a storyline aspect, I think it would have built up Odo's character, gave him a little bit more of gravitas as far as his impact on the stories and things going forward. And then it could have created some complexity in the future storylines, which I don't know what they are. But if the Starfleet is eventually going to clash again with the Dominion and the Jem'Hadar, right, that kind of puts Odo back in the middle of that to say, can he help us navigate this, him being the quote unquote changeling and being directly related to the founders and having some kind of influence over the Jem'Hadar, and then bring that character back again. And could that that seed that Odo planted in that Jem'Hadar character earlier, could that have been a bridge to help the Starfleet get an advantage over the Jem'Hadar later? Like, these are just different creative ideas I'm having that I think they could have played off of. But now, essentially, in my mind, all of that's off the table because of the way they ended this episode. But
And Odo wasn't going to stop. Odo wasn't going to give up on this kid. Like,
yeah,
that was so my brain went, how are you going to fix this? Right? Like, as you're exposing him to the Hollow Suite and he's fucking shit up. Like, and I mean, he went out and talked to Kira and came back and he was still fighting these guys at a level, higher level, higher level, higher level. And so my brain went, oh, like, there's so much drive in this young man that says, follow your instincts, fight, 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 fight. I giggled because I had the thought of like, oh, I must be a Jem'Hadar, when he was like, I just want to fight people. I don't know why. Like, yeah, it's fucking same, my guy. But like that's you sit there and you go, I watched it. So like you only know what you only know, and I'm watching it from my own experience, and I'm thinking, God, how are you gonna fix this one, right? So Odo was gonna try, but they bitched out and fucking had Starfleet coming for him, and fucking missed a huge opportunity with that one. So
I love that we finally have it explained what Jessi is. We get it now. And this
Bite
also,
He's the
bite.
Gem
I have to
Hadar.
comment. After you said that, I'm reminded of one of the very early reviews of this show when we came back. Well, not early, it was more season 2, but it talked about how insufferable our show was because every character was you. So, yet again, to
Listen,
our listener who thinks we're a bunch of, and I quote your review, a bunch of insufferable twats because it's all about Jessi.
twit. I'm a twit. She didn't
Oh,
call
that's
me a
right, you were a
twat.
twit, not a twat.
I would much rather be called a fucking twat. Don't call me stupid. You can call me a twat. No, I thought about that today when I was watching it because I was like, all right, try not to make this about yourself. Try not to put it like try not to be like that person that guy said that you were. Well, it turns out, guess what? We don't fucking know anything outside of our own experience. So you're a twat and a twit. Fuck.
Both of them. You both
You're
of
both of them.
And see, this is why we love it when our listeners give us reviews. It gives us content gems like that.
them. But
Emily.
Jessi, so if you're Gem Hadar in real life and they got like the scaly skin and the reptilian features,
I
are
wish
you like are we gonna start getting comments in the conspiracy thread on Discord about how you're really a reptilian
they already called me a
person?
fucking what they call me? AI
Your
bot.
AI.
Your
I could be a
AI.
lizard person. The way that my skin looks right now, it wouldn't surprise me if it starts peeling off and fuck my whole face falls off.
I just learned today that the British royal family is apparently mixed with the
Oh
Alpha
yeah.
Draconian lizard people.
Yes, we've talked about that
Yeah.
on
Well,
our
we
previous
They're
we
only,
podcast.
know that
dude,
we know that
dude, they're.
can't be a thing though. They're too busy fucking each other.
I was gonna say they're only mixed with themselves, dude.
Yeah.
Ew.
That family is not a family tree, it's a family shrubbery.
I hope that person's still listening
Oh
to us.
man.
And I hope you're fucking spitting pissed off right now because it's all about me. Fucking twat.
Really, we
Emily.
love our listeners. We really do.
I'm just glad I wrote a note of what I wanted to say because I would have forgotten it by now. So I've been listening, and while I do agree the ending sucks, I think it fits because if you think about what Avery Brooks is saying, why did it end the way it did? The system forced Odo's hand because Starfleet was going to come in and make that kid a test subject and probably would have killed him in the process. Or, as Sisko said, like a lot of people, or Sisko or Odo, I can't remember who, said a lot of people were likely going to end up injured or dead, which was true because they were not. Starfleet wasn't going to be all like, oh, let's see if we can nurture this out of him. We know that. That's not what they were going to do. They were going to be running genetic testing on him to figure out, oh, is this shit we can do too? Because look, I know we want to think Starfleet's all nice and great, but we always know there's a facade, and underneath that, there are shady people doing shady shit. So, like, I do think the ending fits in a way if you look at from a system perspective of not allowing people to try to help actually nurture those who would be at higher risk for violence, to maybe help them get away from that. And as much as I love Starfleet, you know that no matter what we see, because we're not supposed to have ships like the Defiant.
Yeah.
You know, their
That's
exploration, they pop up and they're like, oh, but we've actually been working on this for quite a while. That didn't show up in 2 months' time.
that's part of what makes this show different. It broke all the rules that had been established through Next Generation with Picard as the high-minded Federation is this great ideal and principled commanding officer, and there was very little in Next Generation. A lot of that was due to Gene Roddenberry of humanity couldn't be the source of the conflict. The Federation was this idealized utopia. And this show really breaks that.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about, Next Generation had the best of both worlds, which for those of you who are not familiar with Star Trek, the best of both worlds was what the incident was at the start of DS9, the Battle of Wolf 359, where Sisko lost his wife. That was the subject of a 2-part episode in Next Generation called The Best of Both Worlds, which was the Borg invasion of the Federation. And it ended with that 2-episode piece. They did it. The Federation went on their happy little way. There was no real follow-up. There was no real consequence. It just, okay, the Borg were here. The Borg got their ass kicked. The Borg have left. There was one episode that followed up with Picard with his family dealing somewhat with the trauma he experienced, but that was it.
Hmm.
This show establishes that Starfleet didn't just go back to their happy little peaceful exploration ways. They started designing the ship that was meant to go whoop someone's ass. And they built the Defiant. There's these pieces where you see like this, where Starfleet's coming to take this person away that they can use then as a test subject and research
Hmm.
on. You start to really ask questions through here of what side is the Federation really on?
And when you get to like the Maquis and how they have dealt with some of that, hasn't always been maybe great. And even some of the decisions with Bajor and the Cardassians have been questionable.
I was going to point out here too, sorry to jump in, but it's relevant. They name dropped Admiral Nechayev,
Oh God, I hate her.
that she was the one who was ordering the Jem'Hadar adolescent to be taken into custody and researched. Last time we saw her, granted, it was, I guess, a simulation, but it was where she was cozying up to the Dominion
Hmm.
to have the Federation partner up and go whoop everyone's ass. So,
She's a whole ass problem herself.
yeah.
She was always a joy in Next Gen also.
Yeah, she's nasty work. I wasn't feeling her.
Speaking of which, Jessi, what you got?
Wow. Well, that's the nicest thing you've said about me today. So it's 10:15 and we haven't even talked about the fucking part of the show that pisses me off the most. So I will.
Well, that's because you've been talking about everything else. So by all means, what else has pissed you the fuck off?
So well, you know what pissed. So as I'm watching the show, my first note says, so DS9 has zero rules about a grown-ass adult grooming a minor. She's way too fucking old for him. What the fuck? Marta, 20 years old, nailed it. So here's what pisses me off is the double standard that Chris brought up earlier and then I think I brought up before. Because what if it was a little girl, everybody would fucking see a huge problem with it. But like, I'm not like that. My brain just stopped working. I'm not like that. There is no double standard. A child is a child is a child. And I adamantly say on a regular basis, just because it's illegal doesn't mean it's right. So like I understand people used to get married at 12, right? That doesn't fucking mean it was ever right. And it just irritates, like these children need to remain children and you need to let them be sweet and innocent for as long as possible. And he looks like a kid. Like it creeps me the fuck out looking at her because Emily and I were talking about it earlier. Well, everybody was. It was the podcast. Welcome to my show, guys. So she said that she's only 18 on that show. She looks significantly older than him because he still looks like a little boy. And it just irritates the shit out of me because it's not okay. This is what I hear a lot about the Romeo and Juliet sex offenders, right? Everybody will tell you that, oh, they were 19 and the kid was 16. No, you were 30 fucking some years old and the kid was 8. And that's disgusting whether it's fucking 16 and 20 or 8 and 30. Like, I don't like a 40-year-old dating an 18-year-old either. What the fuck do you have in common with that child? So this really bothered me because I was older when I realized that I'm glad that I didn't know that it was like sexual abuse. But when I was 15, I had a 21-year-old actively fucking grooming me. And I just thought I was the shit because I had a 21-year-old guy that like thought I was cute. So it's fucking weird work to watch it on a show and know that she's older than him and then watch his fucking father just all of a sudden be okay with it because he's mature. Fuck off. He's a child. I cannot handle, like, I have seen people go on caseloads because they let people molest their children. This is exactly, I was watching what happened and it's gross to me. I don't fucking like it. All right, I'm done.
Christopher.
Sisko was right at the beginning when he said he wanted to break it up. To have him, and Prentice regularly talks about how good of a father he is, and I've talked about it as well, about how I really like the relationship between Jake and Sisko. I think this is a moment where that relationship were let down by Sisko, who should be the adult in the room and say, this is wrong, okay? And he says it at the beginning of the episode, that he's a kid, she's an adult. In Star Trek, we've seen species who age differently. In this episode, we see a species that ages much faster and differently than humans do. And So who's to say that the Bajorans don't have a different rate at which they age, but they're not making that play here. They're not telling us that they age differently, mature differently. They're basically saying that they mature the same. Yes, she is drawing things out in him, in Jake. That is good. But this is a woman who has lost her family in the occupation, who has been forced to go get a job, that people look down upon. She has had a life that has been full of hardship, and she is probably more mature than her 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake is the son of the commanding officer of a space station. He has had a relatively privileged life, and the maturity just isn't there. Just one season ago or 2 seasons ago, we see him with Nog and another girl from Verisul from Bajor, where they're trying to like pull pranks on Odo and get his bucket. If Jake really wants to date this girl, Commander Sisko should have said, look, see how you feel in a couple years' time. See how you feel when you're 20, she's 24. If y'all still like one another then, go for it. But right now, you're a kid. Finish high school, maybe think about going to college, and grow up a little bit. But this is not the way for him to grow up.
Chris?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting because I mentioned earlier in the episode why I felt torn about it. I mean, I ultimately landed at the same place that Jessi and Christopher were talking about. But I was a little bit torn internally because the old school stereotype of, oh, he's pimping, right? He's 16. He got a 20-year-old baddie. Like, he's pimping, man. Like, do your thing. And that's how I felt when I was younger, talking to older women. Oh, I'm pimping. I got this, she's 12 years my senior and I'm doing my thing. But now that I'm older and I'm a father and I have 4 daughters, obviously I'm not with it in any way. But I also think if on the inverse, when I feel the same way if it was my son, I think I wouldn't feel as strongly about it because I feel like my son, if anything, if there were any physical danger, my son would be better equipped to defend himself than my daughters would be, just due to how I feel my son would be if I had a son. This is all hypothetical. But at the same time, from an emotional, mental aspect, I think it's the same thing, maybe even worse, because my son might be more prone to falling head over heels for this older woman and her feminine wilds because she knows how to play him like a fiddle and get him all wrapped up around her finger. And it's one of those things where nobody could tell him anything, right? We're in love. She loved me. I'm a grown ass man. Teenage boys already feel like they're grown ass men, let alone now they're head over heels in love because they're being manipulated and played by an older woman. Now you try to tell them, this ain't healthy for you, dog. Like, this ain't where it's at. They're definitely not going to try to hear you. So that's why I landed the same place that Jessi and Christopher did, because I still feel like it's a clear abuse, clear manipulation, clear grooming. And I'm not to say that that's how they portrayed her character, but just from an overall standpoint, I'm like, yeah, like this, his personality, at least from the character, from Jake, there's nothing mature about it to me. It seems still very juvenile. It still seems very young-minded and innocent and just very green. There's no, like, I don't want to say maturity, but just no kind of savviness to Jake when it comes to life or when it comes to mature things like dating a 20-year-old woman. I just don't get that from him. So it just, everything about it just felt off and wrong to me in that situation.
He's still very much a boy.
Yeah. Yep.
Jake is still very much a boy. And what really got to me in this is that Commander Sisko seems to be trying to like be his friend in this one, where he wants Jake to like him at the end, where he's seeing him in a different light. He wants the acceptance from his son, and I think he's forgetting the main part that he is his father, and sometimes he needs to make decisions that his son is not going to like.
Yeah, because to your point, Christopher, if it was like he's 16, she's 20, you can't be friends for 2 years, at least 2 years until he's 18, she'll be 22, right? At that point, if you still want to try to be together and that interest survives 2 years of you legitimately just being friends for 2 years and being on the up and up, then that's a different situation, right? In your scenario, Christopher, I think it was 24 and 20. If you still want to try it out at that point, cool, go for it. But like right now, you can't wait. Like it takes me back to when I was in college and I was a junior or senior, and the freshman girls come in, and those creepy guys who are seniors, 22, 23 years old, and they see the 17-year-old girls, and like, will we all go to school together? Or what was the fucked up line? It was, "Oh, if there's grass on the field, I'm gonna play." Like that kind of mentality.
There's
Like
grass on the field, play ball.
yo, that's beyond creep. That's straight up like criminal mindset, like activity going on there. And I would be like, yo, dude, you can't. Okay, she's 17 now. You can't wait 4 months, 5 months till she turns 18. Like you can't at least just wait that much. You're gonna seriously press this while she's legally underage, regardless of whether or not I feel like it's still creepy or not. If you're, 25, 27, 29, going after a 17, 18-year-old girl. But even in college, I'm like, you can't just wait for her to be legal before you gotta press them. Well, you never know. She might get with some guy and da 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 da, whatever, whatever. I'm like, well, then you missed out, dog. But why are you trying to do something that you know ain't right just because you're trying to get that? Like, it just never sat right with me. And so in this instance, like, yo, you can't wait. Sisko couldn't be like, look, sweetheart, you can't wait 2 years for my son to be 18. Like, it was just the fact that he was co-signing it by the end of it. I'm like,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could see there being an argument for like Sisko needing to play it a little bit smart, because just like earlier in the season when he first started becoming friends with Nog, and Sisko was like, I tried telling him not to do that, and he just did it even harder.
Sure.
A little bit of the same thing, right? Especially when there's boobs involved. But like, I guess to switch things up a little bit, I guess.
And she's serving them up too.
Yeah, my perspective on this whole plot is very much the same as the A plot, from the standpoint of I feel like there are just some inconsistencies or some problems with the writing overall. Because in your first impression, Christopher, you mentioned like this is really, to me, what this plot line is really about in its core is about Sisko realizing that Jake is more mature than he realized, that he's growing up, and he's caught off guard by how much Jake has grown up recently. And that's a very understandable thing from the standpoint of like a parent, right? I feel it sometimes with my 9-year-old. I'm like, oh, damn, you're a lot smarter than I give you credit for, or whatever, But like, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that was really what this plot was entirely about. Even to the point of like Sisko going and talking to O'Brien, because he finds out like, oh yeah, Jake hangs out with O'Brien and like shares different things with him because they have a different relationship than father and son do. It's just like crazy unfortunate that they decided to shoehorn in the whole age thing at all, because it was almost completely unnecessary to what I feel like they were trying to do here. So while I in no way disagree with anything that y'all are saying, because it is absolutely problematic, and I think there's maybe a bigger discussion about like why anybody thought it was cool to frame this plot the way that they did back in the 90s. It's just not what I feel like the plot was really,
Right.
I guess, is where I'm going to leave off with.
And Mike, I mean, I get that, right? This could have been Commander Sisko having to come to terms with the fact that Jake is maturing, Jake is getting older, and that one of those things that's going to happen is that he is going to start dating, right? But they don't have to make it this thing where they do have this age gap. She could have
totally.
just been
That's absolutely.
somebody. Yeah, she could have been anybody, any other like teenage, age-appropriate girl, and it could have the storyline would have worked.
Yep. It was completely unnecessary. That's totally the point I was trying to make,
Yeah.
is like it was unnecessary to what I felt like they started off trying to do. It's like somebody in the writer's room was like, oh, there's not quite enough meat here as it is, or like we got to shoehorn this to make it funny. I'm doing air quotes right now because in 2026 it's not funny.
Right.
But
let's check that guy's hard drive, because
certainly think in 1993 when this was written, somebody probably thought it was funny.
We
But
need more
yeah,
conflict. How can we introduce more conflict? I know.
yeah,
Let's make her, an adult.
it's not enough that she's a dabo girl because that's not relatable enough to the audience. Maybe like we don't all understand exactly what that is. They couldn't just come out and say stripper.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, she can't. She works in the casino. She,
Right.
Yeah,
Hey, hey, hey,
Hey,
hey.
hey, I know.
yeah, we know you were the pit boss. Don't worry.
Oh, I was a dealer first. Hey.
Damn
The-
casino whores.
But
I mean, I didn't pour
look,
Oh, maybe
they're
I
on
did.
the edge of space. They are out in kind of the middle of nowhere, like the Cardassians had any rules. I want to know where Quark was getting those girls, right? I joked that
Don't go dragging my man Quark through the mud again.
he didn't traffic somebody.
As you were talking, I was like, I feel like there has to be better ways to say that my kid is getting more mature, right? Like, because that was the whole point.
Mhm. So I think we've kind of beat this topic thoroughly through on both plots of this. So let's see, is there any other final thoughts on the episode that we have not already raised for the Abandoned? Emily, please.
Okay, I'm probably not gonna save it, but since Nicole isn't here, can we talk about Kira and Odo?
Yes!
Her little
Sake.
housewarming gift and the little googly eyes he was making at
I
her.
told you guys. I fucking told you guys.
He can only make googly eyes.
I did not think that he was going to let her into his room.
Oh, really?
Or that he was going to reject the gift. Like, I thought he was going to be that awkward. Like, why the hell are you bringing me a gift? Like, not knowing what she was doing. Like, I didn't think that he was going to get the hint. But he did. And it seems, like there is something developing. Like, they're actually going with this.
When I saw him
Mhm.
call her Major, he's like, "You're always welcome, Major." And I so expected her to be like, "It's Kira," but she didn't. She totally didn't. I missed it. And it was sucky.
Well, he had this whole setup there is inside looking like he had, I don't know, it was a swing or like a jungle gym. What the fuck did he have in his in his in his room?
It's an artistic sculpture reminiscent of a jungle gym.
I
can't
literally
believe-
wrote down, so he gets to goo everywhere now. That's fun.
I can't believe we transitioned from a conversation about grooming to this. I just
Really? Are you sure you
They're
can't?
two,
I'm not
they're two
surprised.
consenting adults.
Jesus H. Christ.
He's probably just
I think this
imagining how
100%
flexible she
on
might
brand
be
for
on the
us,
jungle
right?
gym.
So, okay, so now that
said
we've
stop.
covered that particular topic, I think it is about time that we grab the questions and predictions that our newbies may have, get them the fuck out of here so that we can wrap this up before we manage to offend anybody else in our listening and viewing audience. Okay, so we're going to grab some questions and predictions here, and we're going to go ahead and start with Chris.
So a question I have, I kind of touched on it earlier, is did the Jem'Hadar character, did he have a name in this episode?
No, they just called him the
No.
boy, with
The boy.
with what Prentice said at the beginning makes it all that more
More
gross.
worse.
God
That boy? Yeah, so
damn it.
so I'm wondering, is he gonna end up coming back? Because to Mike's point, the way they ended the episode, it was just kind of like there was no real ending. It was, I don't know, real abrupt and flat. It was just they leave together, and next thing you know, he shows up
like
and
Odo's
tells
back.
Kira,
Right.
yeah, he's back.
There was
and
no.
you were right.
Had a nice trip.
I almost
So-
wondered if he was going to be gone for a while, but nope. Then there he was, right there,
Right there.
acting
So
like
my
he never
question
left.
is the boy, I don't want to call him that, is the Jem'Hadar character going to pop up again and end up being a problem for him? I think it would be real Shakespearean if he did show up and ended up killing Odo, even though I don't want to see Odo die. But is he going to end up being a problem for them in the future is one question. Another question, is the Dabo girl going to end up trapping Jake and get pregnant? You know? If we're going to go down this road, why not just make it as bad as possible?
DS9,
Yeah.
16, and pregnant.
Man, is that what you think
Right.
all women do is just hunt men and trap them by getting
Hey
them?
man, hey, Christopher said she knows he's the daughter of the commanding officer of a space station. She ain't got no family. She's a Dabo girl just trying to get by.
Surely she couldn't have some other motive.
Right.
Chris, I think the flaw in the
Poetry
argument,
related.
though, is Starfleet officers don't earn money. It's a cashless society.
Mm.
Yeah, that's true. But she's,
Still
the
doesn't make any
influence,
sense, but anyway.
the influence, the power of being related to the commanding officer. I don't know. But my main question is the Jem'Hadar character going to end up coming back and causing problems for him?
I'm almost afraid. Jessi?
No, God damn it. I wrote this question before you guys talked about who the writer was.
Here we go.
I can't even. Hold on. Ooh. Blake's gonna fucking kill me. Who was the writer so I can look him up to see how many convictions he's had for grooming? My next question is, how much more of this shit can Blake handle before he absolutely just turns the fucking Zoom off and ends the fucking call? That's it. I got nothing.
We might be recasting this show by mid-season 3.
Mike called me the golden goose. Leave me alone. I'm important here.
Well, I don't think he was
Especially
talking about
the
you.
lies with a whole new cast.
Mike says you guys can stay. Where there's gonna be some fucking older ones that
I will go ahead and answer your part of your question. The episode was written by Steve Warnock and D. Thomas Mayo.
we've already talked about it. That's why I thought it was so funny, because I was like, well, that ruined that question.
Christopher, for the love of Christ, please.
Okay, this decision to let the young Jem'Hadar go is going to hurt the Federation in the short term. The Odo is going to be key into defeating the Jem'Hadar, and he's going to recruit other changelings to help.
Wow.
There's some pretty solid predictions.
Really did some
Or they
mighty.
could be wildly inaccurate, so who the fuck knows?
And you will not know for a very long time.
Maybe ever.
Maybe ever.
Scott
The rate
used to
we're
say
going.
shit all the fucking time. Remember, Emily, when you used to hate that too? I know you don't anymore.
I know, she's really taken a 180 on the whole
Gaslighting situation.
gaslighting thing.
Power
Except I haven't done any gaslighting, as far as they know.
Right. Oh, I don't know, but I can just assume.
All right. I think that more than wraps up our discussion of this episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. If you want to join in our conversation, you can follow us on all of our social medias listed down below. And if you're truly feeling brave, you can join our Patreon at any level, which gets you access to our Discord. And if you think we're fucked up here, boy, should you go read the shit we have there. It is a special place on our Discord, let me tell you. You never quite know what's going to pop up, whether it be the smut corner, the food porn corner, the conspiracy corner. We have a thing where Christopher talks about balls. You never quite know. There's all sorts of content out there, and occasionally we ignore the warning from Ghostbusters, the streams get crossed, and, well, you just go with it in whatever thread the conversation gets listed. I am Blake. The people that can't take a cue with me on this show are...
Chris?
Mike?
Yeah, Blake. Christopher.
I'm not included in that, but I will say I'm
The
here.
fuck
Jessi.
you aren't.
God damn it. Prentice?
Prentice.
And Emily.
Thank you for listening to Especially the Lies, a Deep Space Nine podcast. You can find all the places to listen to and watch this podcast by searching for Especially the Lies on your podcast app or on YouTube. We want to hear from you, so join the conversation at Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review where you are listening to or watching this podcast. Especially the Lies is not affiliated with, and the podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by Paramount or any other owners of the Star Trek copyright. All clips included in this podcast are the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders. They are included here for purposes of review, and no infringement is intended.
Why have you brought me here? Show yourselves. What do you want?
The Sisko has returned to us.
He arrives with questions.
There are always questions.
Welcome back to Visiting with the Prophets, where we are going to talk about our newbies' questions and predictions and some of their conspiracy theories and batshittery from this particular episode. I don't even know really where to start here, but I will say if you have not watched past The Abandoned and you do not want spoilers, maybe you should leave now. If you're curious what the hell just happened and want to hope we clarify it for you as much as we do for us, feel free to stick around. Emily, I don't know.
Okay. Well, we do have questions about this particular Jem'Hadar, and if he comes back to be a problem.
Do you want me to give the smartass answer?
I mean, who the fuck knows?
Well, the smartass answer is that while this Jem'Hadar does not show back up in DS9, the actor, what was it? Robbins is the last name.
Robinson,
yeah. Bumper Robinson actually does quite a bit of voice acting with video games and stuff, and he comes back and voices the Jem'Hadar in a few of the Star Trek video games. So will he be back? Sorta. Which
Not
I will
for
say,
us.
Mike, I'm surprised you didn't mention because I saw.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for my.
Transformer.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my turn. He was the voice of Bumblebee in one of the better Transformers cartoons.
Okay, what else we got?
So, Christopher thinks Odom will be capable of recruiting other changelings, and it was really hard to not cackle at that one. I mean, I appreciate he gave us something to work with, but
Well, that tells me he wasn't really paying attention to Picard season 3 now, was he?
oh, sweet little Christopher. So Christopher thinks Odo can recruit other changelings.
Yeah, no.
Not a fucking chance.
Nope.
They are all in on the fascism.
He will merge goo with one of them, but
I appreciate that he at least made an
Yes.
honest effort at a prediction.
yes.
I can see where you might think that.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate that he's giving us something to work with. And Odo being the key to defeat the Jem'Hadar, not entirely.
Not entirely, but he will be instrumental in ending the Dominion War.
Yes.
Because again, he'll have the cure to Starfleet's fuckery, and he'll merge goo with the female changeling and cure them all.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not a terrible prediction. And okay, I had to bring up Odo and Kira just because I know how how far out that is, and because Brile's coming back this season. I just want to fuck with Jessi.
She's gonna love when Barile comes back.
Oh God. Yeah, I needed something to distract her.
Well, I think that about sums up what we had from our newbies, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay, I can't remember the episode name, but the episode where they find the Jem'Hadar stranded on the planet and they've learned to live without the Ketracel light. I'm wondering if Chris will feel differently about some of the Jem'Hadar at least getting some level of a redemption arc. I know it's a ways away, but I thought that was an interesting episode. And given his thoughts on this one, knowing that's in the future, I'm interested to see how he responds to that one
Let's
in
to say
particular.
nothing of Starfleet Academy, where one of our reoccurring main characters is a Jem'Hadar, half Jem'Hadar member of Starfleet. Did IMO one of the best parts of that whole show?
Yes, I love her.
I hated her at first, but now she's my favorite part of the show.
I wasn't sure about how that character was getting going. I love her. So Prentice, you got anything?
No, I was going to say, Emily, I was thinking about that same episode that Jim Hadar is saying that I believe in the future, Chris will feel better about what happened because you'll see at that point the nature versus nurture argument brought up again and how they basically said we are taking our lives and we're taking ownership over it and we're having independence from what our DNA coding says it should be. So I think that will be good for him to see later on. And I think the handling of race gets better, as we know in some episode that Avery Brooks was directly involved in kind of shaping. I believe the one that we always talk about is Far Beyond the Stars, things of that nature. So I think they handle things better in the future. So I think although the episode was messy, it brought us some good conversation that we will see mature later down the line.
So I do want to comment there was a lot of thoughts on Jake's relationship with the Dabo girl.
A lot of thoughts.
A lot of conversation on that.
Too many.
And we're going to see some more of this because we have an episode upcoming where There's a couple. There's the one where Loxwana Troy shows up and kind of psychically projects on everybody.
Yep, that's episode 10.
And then Jake pretty much goes all horny all over Kira at that point and starts pursuing Major Kira.
Mm-hmm.
But there is the other one as well, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. But it's the one with the alien lady that basically has him writing, and she's taking
the Muse episode.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Is it actually called Muse though?
I can't remember. That's what I'm trying to.
That was.
I can't remember what season it was in either.
Was it 5?
I feel like
it
was
no,
5. Jake was...
4 episode 20, The Muse.
Really? Huh.
So we see this again the Muse, because, and again, Loxwana Troy is back in that one too.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, Loxwana shows up and we're going to see Jake with an older woman again.
At least then there's like a supernatural explanation for it.
I'm just saying, our cast is going to have some thoughts and feels on this route again, I think.
Yeah.
And that one is absolutely more of a manipulation-based episode, where this one, there is absolutely problems with their age. But Mardah very much seemed like she's been through some shit, and she wanted someone who was kind.
Yeah, I didn't see anything problematic from her behavior.
Yeah, it was really just the age thing, but there wasn't anything about her that felt like she was manipulating him. It seemed like he's a nice guy. Like, he's a kid, but he's a nice kid, and she probably hasn't seen a lot of that given her history. So I can see why, like, to me, it doesn't make sense romantically, but I could see why she would at least want to be friends with him.
I mean, then to play the real devil's advocate, she was not human, right? She was Bajoran, and there could be a cultural element to this as well. But
yeah,
like I said, I'm not here to defend it. My overall thought was we talked about this particular aspect of it for a really, really long time, and people got really, really upset about it, and I just don't feel like it was the point at all.
No.
No.
And the relationship doesn't really go anywhere either, because I think she's gone by...
She goes away to school.
Yeah, she leaves in a couple episodes, I think.
And I kind of thought
Sanctuary.
The whole point of this episode, like that part of the episode, because she's sitting at the table and she specifically says, makes a comment about people judging people based on their job. And I thought that was really more the point they were trying to get across, and they just used, she had to at least be of age to work as a dabo girl.
It really feels like there were a lot of different conflicting ideas about like what they could have done with her as a character and kind of eschewing people's beliefs or hangups or whatever, and like they tried to mash them all together into one thing. It just didn't really
also
work.
I wonder if Sisko was a bit jealous.
Let me ask you, did we assume that they were having a sexual relation? If they were not having sexual relations, does that change the nature of the relationship?
Yeah, and that was never implied.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't. And I don't know if it changes the nature. I mean, we'd still be here listening to the rest of the crew talking about it if there was a sexual element involved, but I don't think it makes it any more right or wrong. Like, I think the overall thing was, I don't know, still true. The age gap was really big, and Jake is still really young entering into that kind of a relationship that somebody should have known better.
For the comments on Big 8, I mean, it's 4 years, though. It's only 4 years.
It's true.
Actually, less than, because you can assume Jake is not just turned 16 in the episode. So he's somewhere between 16 and 17. So it's under a 4-year age gap. And I mean, you look at a lot of relationships, that's not uncommon.
That is true. A 4-year age gap later on in life, you wouldn't blink twice if it was like a 30
Well, but even I know it came up in college. There's a lot of instances where high school students go dual enrollment in college and end up meeting and having some type of relationship with, whether it be just friends or even more of a dating relationship. I mean, I think they read a lot into this, and they imprinted a lot over the top of it.
Yes.
Yeah, they did. Agreed.
And then they beat that horse until it was paced.
Well, and we are kind of shaped by the times that we're living in.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part.
Some of the things going on in the news right now that are pretty not ideal.
Yeah, and it was kind of difficult to judge how serious that relationship was, as far as is it more towards like friends hanging out, and it's not that big of a deal if there's not like the physical intimacy aspect, and just holding someone's hand, to me, like, whatever. You can hold your friend's hand when you cross the street. Like, that doesn't have to be weird and creepy,
Yeah.
even if there is an age gap.
That's a good way to sum it up. Is I watched this and had no problem with it because I didn't see anything in it that was not innocent. Again, whether it's long-term right or wrong is kind of a different question, but
And I think the implication of her being 20 and a dabo girl has implications of the relationship progressing to a certain
more,
level,
yeah.
even if it hasn't yet, which, yeah, definitely falls in that ick problematic factor. But if it's more along friends hanging out, and it was hard to determine because why was he keeping her from his dad? Why was he avoiding this dinner? There was some secrecy there that I think didn't help the situation.
Okay, well, before we become the rest of the show and beat this anymore, I think we have kind of hit the point where we have covered our discussion on this one. We will be back next week, and I gotta be honest, next week is one of my favorite episodes.
Oh,
Civil
that's
Defense
gonna be
is a
wild.
personal favorite from DS9.
It's a
So
good
I am looking
time.
forward to the discussion on that. I really hope the rest of our cast does not absolutely hate it, but I do like Civil Defense. It's a Goldicott episode. I love Mark Alimo. I think he just chews up the scenes. He's phenomenal in there, the way he plays that character. And so I am really looking forward to that one because we also get to see him have a little bit of interaction with Garrick. We see him interact with our crew. So I am really looking forward to that one next week.
And then we get to wash it down with Meridian.
Ugh,
You didn't have to harsh the mellow there, Mike, and bring up that steaming
Can I
pile
skip
of dog shit.
Meridian? I don't
No, I'm going
wanna.
to.
If I have to watch that shit, you have to watch that shit.
Meanie.
So, I guess before we sign off, I ran across something a little bit ago because I was actually aware of who Bumper Roberts before we watched this episode, as you mentioned, because of his connection to Transform. And I had no idea he was in this until I hit IMDb earlier when I was watching the episode. But I just happened to glance at Mr. Robinson's Instagram because I do follow him. And I noticed that a few years back, he actually posted a picture of himself in his Jim Hadar makeup with a nice quote from Avery Books that I'd like to read. Because even if I don't feel like it necessarily was conveyed very well in the episode, the quote nevertheless holds up. So here we go. Hold on to your dream. Don't let the people shake you from your dream. Don't let form become more important than the substance of your heart. Don't let commerce determine what you do exclusively.
Excellent.
Wise man.
And on that note, that wraps it up for us. I am Blake, and with me has been
Mike,
Prentice,
Emily.